have a number of grasses in our Blades and Plume Garden that have blue-tinted foliage, and these grasses add a lot of interest to the garden, and some of them can serve as quite a nice focal point. The first one I want to look at is actually not a grass but a sedge, which is a close relative of grasses. And this is Carex Glaucus. It's the blue sedge. It doesn't have a very intense blue color, just a very faint coloration, especially on the undersides of the blades. This plant has a very nice compact form. It produces a small mound about 8 to 12 inches. And it's a really good choice for a shady location in the landscape where you want to put a grass-like plant. This one takes the shade very well, and it also, if you plant it in mass, it makes a very nice ground cover. We have another very compact grass here. This one is in fact a grass, and this is a blue fescue, Fescue ovina. And this cultivar is called Glauca, and Glauca really means that it has a waxy plume on the leaves, and that's what gives it that bluish gray color. This plant also stays nice and compact. It even has a tighter form than that sedge, creating a nice tight 8-inch mound. You might see this blue fescue listed as tolerating full sun, but it really won't take Oklahoma's full sun. It does need a little bit of shade, and we might have it in a bit too much shade here, so it's not thriving as well as I've seen it. It's also a cool season grass, so it looks best in the spring and in the fall, and it'll retain its color throughout the winter as well. So this is another nice choice for a ground cover in some of those slightly shaded locations. The next grass I have is a little bit larger. This is blue love grass, Aerogrostis elodii. And this one you could see is kind of fallen over. And one of the things that we find with our grasses, they're native to prairies, they're native to areas that don't receive as much attention as our garden. And we have this very rich soil, which causes our grasses to grow very tall, and sometimes that causes them to lodge over. So one thing to consider when you're growing ornamental grasses is treat them a little rough. Don't give them as much fertilizer and water as you might some of the other plants in your garden. Blue love grass is native to the southeastern states, and its airy seed heads will stay on well into the winter, providing some interest during that time. The next grass I have has received so much attention in our garden. This is lime grass, or Lamus arenarius, and this cultivar is called Blue Dune, and you could see why everybody's asking about it. It has such an intense blue coloration. Now, this grass has been considered invasive in some of the northern states, especially on the sand dunes that surround the Great Lakes region, because that's sort of the habitat where it thrives. It doesn't seem to be as aggressive in the southern states, and part of that might be that it tends to slow down a little bit in the heat. However, it is very heat tolerant, and it does quite well here in Oklahoma. So what we've done to help contain it a little bit is we've planted it in a bottomless container, and that'll just help contain the rhizomes. That's how it spreads, is by sending underground shoots or rhizomes out across the soil. It does make a striking addition to the garden, a nice focal point, and if you plant it in mass, it makes a very beautiful, taller ground cover as well. Over here we have another native prairie grass. This is switchgrass, Panicum virgatum. And the switchgrasses are very tolerant, very hardy plants. As you can imagine, that they come from the prairie, they certainly tolerate the wind very well, and in fact they look beautiful swaying back and forth in the wind. They're also rather drought tolerant. A number of different cultivars of switchgrass have been selected for ornamental use, and these have different foliage colors and different colors in the seed head. This one's called Heavy Metal, and it was selected for its very upright form and the blue, sort of silvery blue, metallic blue color on the blades. In the fall, the blades are going to turn yellow, and these seed heads or panicles can reach about 10 inches in length. They have this nice open, airy architecture, just look wonderful swaying back and forth. Now, like our blue love grass, we want to consider that this is a prairie grass, and we don't want to over fertilize it or else it can topple a bit. Another native grass that we have growing here is the little blue stem, Schizachyrium scoparium. And this cultivar is called the Blues, and the name little blue stem can be a little misleading. It's only little when compared to big blue stem, which can reach heights of 8 to 10 feet. The little blue stem tops out around 4 feet, and the Blues was selected for this sort of lavender blue color on the foliage. In the fall, the blades are going to turn a very brilliant burgundy red color, which is simply beautiful. And this prairie grass is another that really moves in the wind. Now we have our plants growing in a support ring, and the reason for this is that in the past we've found if the plants get too much water, they tend to lodge a little bit. Again, they're adapted to the prairie. So you want to make sure you plant them in a very well-drained soil, and if you think that lodging might be a problem, set the support rings out early when the plants are still small so that the leaf blades can grow up through them.